Hey, welcome back to the Coin Box. This is the final video in this series, so today we're going to go over the recent history of modern coin dies from the US Mint. Now, there are three dies used when striking a coin: an obverse die, a reverse die, and a collar die. Although there are some collar dies on the market, we won't cover them in this video. We'll focus solely on obverse and reverse dies, and I generally won't make a distinction between the two. If you own a US Mint die, it is most likely from one of these 6 separate groups of dies that are currently on the market. Now, it's important to note that all of these dies have been cancelled to varying degrees using different methods. They've either been torched, partially defaced with an X, or completely defaced. Depending on which method was employed, some dies still exhibit remains of the original face of the die, but none of the dies on this list have completely original uncancelled faces. So generally speaking, the more of the original striking surface that can be found on a given die, the more sought after it will be. For more details on pricing, population numbers, backstory, and just about everything else you need to know about each of the dies on this list, check out my in-depth videos on each group. Also, I'm leaving links below to all the websites I'm referencing in this video in case you care to check them out in more detail. So the first group of modern US Mint dies are the 1968 proof dies from the San Francisco Mint. These dies were all torched, so the face of the die was basically melted. Some dies were completely melted off, while others were only partially melted, so they retained some of the original design details. These dies were not sold directly by the US Mint as cancelled dies, but more on that in my in-depth video. We'll call this second group the 1993-1994 Fred Weinberg Denver dies, and in the words of the legend himself, he says that the defaced dies I bought from the Denver Mint were not sold as dies, they were sold as scrap metal. I bought a large group in 1996 that had approximately 20,000 dies, from cents through commemorative dollars, all from the Denver Mint, and all dated 1993 or 1994. Some of the 1994 dated dies were encapsulated by NGC and sold at heritage auctions for an average of $100 each. These dies, like most of the other dies on this list, have been completely defaced, which means that the original face of the die has been completely ground off, leaving a blank, flat surface. Next up, we have the 1995-1996 Olympic coin dies, which are pretty special and unique. Not only were they the very first coin dies officially marketed and sold directly by the US Mint, but they also retain most of the original striking surface since they were only cancelled with a large X across the face of the die. Both $5 gold and $1 silver coin dies were sold. There is a ton more info on these in my in-depth video, including a story about them being used to strike some privately minted metals. 1998 marked the first time the US Mint offered coin and die sets, which were available in 4 different denominations. It was also the first time they officially sold circulating coin dies, which were offered in 1 cent, nickel, dime, and quarter coin and die set combos from both the Philadelphia and Denver Mints. Each set came with a COA and a black pouch within a priority mail box. Once again, these dies, along with the remaining dies on this list, were all completely defaced. The fifth group is comprised of the 10-year series of the 50-state quarters coin and die sets from 1999 through 2008, which are by far the most common dies currently on the market. All of these, except for the first year of the program, came in a blue box within a white outer sleeve. The program ended in 2008, and the Mint has not released any more coin and die sets since then, so far. Our sixth and final group of modern US Mint dies come in the Westward Journey Nickel Series coin and die sets, which were issued for all 4 varieties of nickels in 2004 and 2005. These sets come in the same presentation as the 50-state quarters coin and die sets issued during those years, with a COA inside a blue box within an outer white sleeve. So quarter dies are by far the most common denomination of dies currently on the market, and that's mostly thanks to so many of the 50-state quarter die sets being released. The scarcest denomination is the 50-cent or half-dollar coin dies. I'm not exactly sure why this is, but the US Mint has actively avoided releasing 50-cent coin dies, so it's extremely hard to find them. There are multiple cent, nickel, dime, and quarter die offerings, and we even got $1 silver and $5 gold dies, but I've only come across this one photo of a half-dollar reverse die, which is from the lot of torched 1968 dies. So if you find a half-dollar die, snatch it up, because I'm assuming it's going to demand a higher premium compared to the lower denominations. Now that we've seen every kind of modern US Mint die currently on the market, I'm going to speak directly to the US Mint since I'm pretty sure just about everyone there watches this channel. So here's what I'd like to see from the Mint if you ever release another coin die, and please do as long as you do it right. First and foremost, leave a portion of the original die face visible. Don't sell completely defaced dies, because at that point even you consider them to be scrap metal. X-cancel dies, on the other hand, would be awesome. If you're concerned about them being used to create errors, go ahead and cancel the edge around the die as well. And if you're hesitant to release circulation coinage dies, I get it, that's fine. Just release commemorative coin dies, like the Olympic ones. Leaving a portion of the original die face visible is the biggest deal here. But if you want to go above and beyond, here are some key changes I would make to the coin and die sets. The main issue I have with them, aside from the ground-off die, is that there is no direct link between the coin and die. The COA is great because it tells the story of the die, and it is directly linked to the die because they both have matching serial numbers. But when it comes to the coin, there's no provable connection between the coin and die. The COAs state that the coin in the set is one of the first coins struck with the die. But how would you prove this? Also, you aren't saying it's the first coin struck with the die, only that it matches the denomination and that it was allegedly struck by the die in the set. But let's be honest, that probably just means that it was randomly selected from a pile of hundreds of thousands of other coins that were struck by the same die. To prove my point, third-party graders won't certify the coins in these sets as having been struck by the die, because again, there's no provable connection between the two. So here are two things you can do to fix this, and in the process make these sets far more appealing to collectors. Ideally, the coin in the set should be the first coin struck with the die. Now, practically speaking, maybe this isn't very feasible, but I don't see why it would be impossible. Next, the coin should come pre-sealed. I'm not saying it has to be certified or graded, but it should be pre-holdered in tamper-evident packaging, and the sealed package should have the same serial number as the die, thereby establishing a direct link between the coin and the die. And that's it. If you would make these changes, you would have a unique numismatic product that would be in extremely high demand and that would hold both its value and appeal. Back to my viewers now, one last thing I wanted to mention is that NGC will certify and encapsulate dies, so that's always an option. But encapsulating completely defaced dies makes no sense to me. A large part of the very limited appeal defaced dies have, to begin with, is the fact that you can hold the chunky piece of numismatic steel in your hand and see and feel for yourself what a die is like. So sealing them in a plastic case seems rather pointless to me since there's no die face that needs to be protected. And I find it humorous that on some listings of these encapsulated dies, the description reads, "Any identifying stamps or markings are hidden by the capsule." So in other words, on top of being completely defaced, any other element of interest is hidden by the capsule. Now, in the case of the Olympic dies, it might make more sense to get them encapsulated since they are pricier and have the original die face that could use protection. In conclusion, the fact that the US Mint has even released actual production dies to the public, defaced or not, is pretty special and unique, as I'm not aware of any other world mint that has done so. So if you see a die at a coin shop or a coin show or listed on eBay, it will most likely be from one of these 6 groups of dies which were released at different times, in different ways, and for different reasons beginning in 1968. I hope the videos in this series help to give you a better idea of what's available and a clearer understanding of the history of modern US Mint dies. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these dies in the comments below, and let me know if you own any of them. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and share it with a numismatic friend. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.